Hi, everybody. Are we ready to start? Is everybody over there ready to start? All right, well, I'm going to go for it then. It's so nice to see all of you here tonight for the February 28th, 2024 City Council meeting. Welcome to the Agoura Hills City Council meeting. Please silence your cell phones and all electronic devices. If you wish to speak or submit a comment, a written comment, please complete a comment card for each item and submit it to the city clerk prior to the public comment portion of the item. And the city clerk is right here at the front on the end. There she's waving. Okay. I'm going to call to order the meeting, and I'm so happy tonight that we get to have Cub Scout Pack 227 to lead us in the flag salute. So come on up, Scouts.
Attention. Will the audience please rise? Color Guard, advance. Hand salute. Those not in uniform, please put your right hand over your heart. Please say with me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color Guard, post your colors. 2. Color Guard dismissed. The audience may be seated.
Thank you so much, Scout Pack 227. We really appreciate you coming in. And you all did a great job. Okay, now we'll go to the roll call. Madam Clerk, can you please take a roll call?
Good evening. Councilmember Anstead?
Here.
Councilmember Lopez? Councilmember Wolf? Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester?
Here.
Mayor Buckley Weber?
Here.
Mayor Buckley Weber, you have a quorum with Councilmembers Lopez and Wolf absent.
Thank you very much. There was no closed session tonight, so we have no report. And I will now look to my fellow council members to make a motion and a second to approve tonight's agenda. Please state your names for the record.
This is Councilmember Chris Anstead. I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester seconds.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you please take a roll call vote?
Councilmember Anstead?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber, you have approval, 3-0.
Thank you very much. We're now moving on to presentations. Hello, good. So this is something really exciting. You know, the last time I was mayor, COVID hit, and we spent a lot of time working with our local businesses, and we're so proud of so many of them that were able to pivot, as they say, pivot, and do whatever it took to make it work, and the city really rallied behind the local businesses. So we decided this year that we were going to honor some of these local businesses that opened up right when COVID was hitting and are still here today and have a little bit of a flair and an international feel to them and all of that. So tonight, unfortunately, our recipient from Uncle Af's sandwich shop over by Agoura Deli. He took ill, so he's not here, but he still wanted me to do the presentation, and I will deliver the certificate for him. So let me tell you a little bit about Uncle Af's and something that's incredibly exciting. In April of 2017, Arsene Shams and his son Ben Shams opened Uncle Af's restaurant. So it was a few years before COVID, and quickly became a desired destination spot of our community. But their growing popularity does not end at the city's borders. And some of you may have seen this recently. But Uncle Af's is beloved by all their patrons, and their cuisine has gained nationwide attention as they were recently named as one of Yelp's top 10 restaurants in the entire country. So that was pretty exciting to open up that Yelp top restaurants and see something from Agoura Hills. So there we are. The Wildlife Crossing and Uncle Af's have put us on the map. So growing up in Agoura Hills and being an Agoura High School Charger, Ben Shams recounts his childhood spent working at his aunt's restaurant in Agoura Hills, which was formerly called Charfossil. Many of you may have been here and remember Charfossil, which was in the current location of Maral Cuisine today. This is where Ben Shams first developed a culinary passion and began putting together flavors and recipes that would ultimately make it onto the menu that we all know and love today as Uncle Af's. When asked what region of the world their food best represents, Ben Shams explains their goal was to have an international concept and a melting pot of all flavors of the world. Uncle Af's is more than just a dining spot, it's an experience. Customers can enjoy a variety of options when they visit Uncle Af's, from vegan dishes to classic sandwiches and delicious side salads, from their acclaimed chicken firecracker and Mona Lisa panini to their Happy Cow vegan panini. Each bite is a culinary masterpiece that sends your taste buds going crazy for more. I've known Ashern and Ben Shams for quite a while, and it's an honor to present them with this certificate, which I would show you, but it's somewhere. Am I missing it? No. Okay. Oh, okay, I forgot to bring it over. Well, I'm going to show it to you guys. Okay, thank you. Guess what? It looks like a certificate. So I'm honored to give that certificate to them as the Mayor's Business of the Month for February 2024. Congratulations to them for surviving COVID, and we thank them for their service to the community. So I will personally deliver this, and I can't wait so that I can have one of their special sandwiches. But I've had the side salads before, and they're delicious. So I hope everybody who's watching will go visit Uncle Af's. Again, it's right next to a couple of doors down from Agoura Deli in the City Mall. Thank you. Okay, moving on with the meeting. We're now going to Intergovernmental Special Purpose Committee and Departmental Reports. And we'll start with the Las Virgenes Malibu Council of Governments update. Mayor Pro Tem Penny Sylvester.
Yes, actually, we had quite a full meeting. The COG Hazard Mitigation Plan has been submitted to the Office of Emergency Services. There are going to be a couple of updates, and then it'll be submitted to FEMA for the final approval. The design engineering work for the COGS Regional Smart Cities Fiber Network will begin in mid-March, and then they're hoping that construction will begin in the fall of this year. We brought up the Tax Protection and Government Accountability Act that's going to be on the November ballot. It's considered to have a serious impact on the ability of cities to increase fees and taxes, and everything would have to be put to a public vote for approval. So the COG board has been asked for each of our representatives to come to our cities to discuss passing a resolution opposing the measure. So I would like to put that forward at some point that our board can, vote on that. And then finally, and I'm really pleased about this one, is the COG is going to sponsor a virtual town hall to discuss the current problems with the homeowners insurance problem, which is now ongoing in the state. I'm sure all of you are having problems with your homeowners insurance. So that on Thursday, April the 4th, Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara and Assembly Member Jackie Irwin will be participating in the event, and the city will send out a link once we have all the final information. But I would encourage you to participate and let your friends and neighbors know about it. Captain C2, some interesting information from the Sheriff's Department. They are working with a PR firm to increase their enrollment, and currently officers are working overtime to meet all the demands of our community. They are also now working on sensors to detect drones that are being used by crews for surveillance pre-break-ins, pre-home break-ins. So they're hoping that if they see a drone up there, they can, interfere, which would be nice. And then there is a new program to register your home surveillance cameras. It's called Connect Los Angeles. It's at connectlosangelescounty.org. And anybody who has cameras, like I have a Ring camera at home, and I've now signed up my 2 exterior Ring cameras, they can then, if there is a crime in your local area, they don't have control of your camera, but if there is a crime and they're looking for information, they will then contact you and say, do you have anything on your camera that could help us? And then there's a second level, that's level 1. And then level 2, businesses can sign up for level 2, where it will be a live feed into the Sheriff's Department. So if there's an ongoing burglary in the store, they will be able to activate those cameras and observe what's going on. So we need to get the word out on that. And then the final item, I think we're going to discuss later in the evening, so I'm not going to discuss the AT&T request yet.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem. Many of you may know that Agoura Hills has a representative on the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy Advisory Committee, for which I've served since 2012, and I'm now the chair of that committee. And so I have started probably about 6 months ago doing a report on what we covered at our last meeting. So the biggest event at our last meeting, in my opinion, was we said goodbye to Don Robinson, who's been has given 30 years of dedicated and distinguished service to the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. Don is an amazing person. He's going to spend more time with family and do some traveling, but he has climbed all of the 14-foot peaks in California. He has been very active in Sierra Club, very active in Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, and he knows a heck of a lot about Santa Monica Mountains wildflowers and has taught me personally. He's a big, strong advocate for wildlife, and so he's just been a real treat to work with, and we are going to miss him. He was the representative all this time from the city of Westlake Village, and they have appointed Julie Newsom, who some of you know, and she will now be serving on the Santa Monica Mountains Advisory Committee. So, and then we went through some other things, and we had a presentation by Esther Feldman as well as MRCA, Mountain Restoration Conservation Authority. They have done a study on why are young people not going into wildlife conservation fields and various things. Now, we are lucky here to have the Newsies, whose daughter is going into wildlife conservation, but there aren't a lot of kids that even consider it. Young adults. And so they've done a study and they've come up with some ideas of some training programs and how they're going to work with young people to show them that there is actually a fantastic career path. There is something like, over 20,000 jobs within the state that have to do with, ecology, environmental jobs. And so they're going to work on that with training programs. So it was an interesting presentation. There will be a summary that will be on MRCA's website. It's a summary to come. And other than that, that's about of interest. That's all that we did. So now we're going to move on to, are there any reports from staff? Nothing? We've been so busy. Nobody has anything to report? Okay. Are there any reports from the City Council? That leaves you, Councilmember Anstead. Anything? Okay, so now we're going to move on to public comments, and this section is reserved for persons wishing to speak on items not listed on the agenda that are under the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. If you have something to distribute to the City Council, please hand it to our City Clerk and do not approach the dais. Public testimony is limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and a speaker's time may not be transferred to another speaker. Persons addressing the City Council shall not engage in disorderly conduct that disrupts or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of the meeting. I will now defer to the City Clerk to welcome our first speaker.
Thank you, Mayor Buckley Weber. We did receive written public comments. They were received by email on or before the 4 p.m. deadline today and forwarded to the City Council prior to the meeting, and they'll be part of the permanent record. We received them from Carolyn Tricino, Old Agoura, representing Everyone's Safe Passage. There were 2. Rhonda Greenstein, Shell and Lisa Schneider, Old Agoura, representing Schneider Endurance Horses. Jess Thomas, Old Agoura, representing Old Agoura Homeowners. And we do have some speakers this evening. Our first is Serena Nuzzi, followed by Adrian Jacob.
Welcome. Come on up, and I probably don't need to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you anyways, that your 3 minutes to speak will end when the red light appears on the podium. Please adjust the microphone and begin your comments now. You know, it's really been a long time because of COVID that you guys haven't been here, so welcome. It's so great to see you all.
Agoura always shows up for things that are important. Anyway, good evening, council members, Madam Mayor. My name is Serena Nuzzi, and I've been a resident of Old Agoura for over 25 years now. Resolution 081509, the city's Trails and Pathways Master Plan, states that as part of the city's general plan survey in 2006, we got some history here, Agoura Hills residents overwhelmingly supported the construction of trail networks for bicyclists, horses, and pedestrians. Tonight, I am here to voice my support for the continued construction of these trails. Because of Old Agoura's equestrian zoning overlay, decomposed granite pathways and rural-style fencing are preferred over the formal concrete curbed sidewalks and gutters found in other residential neighborhoods. Their purpose, however, is the same: to ensure safe passage for all pedestrians. Every winter, we see stormwater runoff onto our roads like Chesbro and Fairview, and it also flows across the unpaved portion of the roadway, carrying with it debris, rocks, and mud. The last pavement resurfacing did not take into account the water flow we experience regularly. Flooding has damaged the pavement and abutting parking and trail easements. In what would normally serve as our sidewalks, we now have large chunks of asphalt laying in 18-inch trenches. This makes it impassable for pedestrians and parking cars, which forces all users into vehicular traffic. The lack of maintenance over the years has compounded these damaged conditions. I understand that Chesbro is scheduled for repairs in 2026, if I'm not mistaken, but we can't wait that long. I would also like to reiterate that there's no point in simply repaving without addressing the flow of water. And it's a better use of resources to address the trail improvement while assessing roadway needs. Any trail improvements will only wash out again without a better design. Off-pavement parking capabilities are also critical at this junction. Currently, cars park in the street because they can't park off pavement, and that makes it challenging for both cars and pedestrians to navigate. In closing, I also wanted to ask these questions. What is the process for assessing maintenance requirements in each neighborhood of the city? How regularly is this assessment completed? And what are the determining factors for the budget allocation of roadway and pedestrian infrastructure projects? Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. And the best person for you to speak about those questions is Jessica Forte.
Yes.
So I think she probably has your number.
Okay.
Or you may have hers.
Yes.
But check with her so you can have a meeting. Who's our next speaker?
Our next speaker is Adrian Jacob, followed by Carolyn Tricino.
Hello.
Hi,
Welcome.
thank you. Thanks for hearing us. My name's Adrian Jacob, and I've lived in Old Agoura for 18 years. I've lived in Agoura Hills for 24 years. We are here this evening to make our neighborhood safer, more beautiful, and something all residents of Agoura Hills can be proud of. Our neighborhood is used extensively by the community as a place to escape to for nature walks, stroll with your kids or your grandkids, bike riders, and people on horseback abound. Everywhere on their way, they're riding these trails to Chesbro Park, and just about every dog owner in the whole city is to be found on our roads. Currently, they are all sharing unmaintained and in places incredibly narrow and crumbling roads. There are speeding cars with them on these roads. There are landscapers and everyday maintenance workers that need to be in the neighborhood. The close proximity to Agoura High School means new drivers racing by from the school, and there are marked increase in traffic and pedestrians that have to share the road has become unsafe and untenable for us. In 2007, the Driver Avenue multi-use pathways were opened, and it was a huge success, in keeping with pedestrians off of Driver Ave and safe from traffic. Any day of the week, you will find people walking, biking, and horseback riding on that path. So there is plenty of evidence that people will use them. The only problem is that the installation was 17 years ago and a very limited scope. The 2006 resolution covers the entire neighborhood of Old Agoura, and we feel inaction on expanding it will soon lead to tragedy. You will see in the packet provided to you the conditions of the roads are disgraceful. The failure to maintain the roads or to develop a multi-use trail that was prescribed in 2006 resolution has become dangerous. Finally, I challenge you to compare our roads to those in the Highlands or Lower Morrison. The conditions are not even close. To say that simply we pay our taxes too and our roads deserve to be maintained. We want to know why they're not maintained and why is our safety being ignored. We're not asking for special treatment. We're asking for the city to help the neighborhood keep pace with the larger population, development, and vastly increased traffic by continuing to enact the 2006 resolution that indicated the city's commitment to keep us safe.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobs.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Carolyn Trissino, followed by George Coleman.
Welcome. You we've seen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, City Council.
Actually, we
good
saw
evening.
you remotely. We have not seen you in person. in the
You haven't
chambers,
for a
so
long
welcome
time.
back.
So my name is Carolyn Trissino, and I am an Everyone Safe Passage team member. I've been an Old Agoura resident since 2003. We started our ESP movement to advocate for the safety of neighbors and visitors to Old Agoura. Our team members, Serena and Adrian, provided the status of our streets and noted the history associated with the resolution and the City Trails and Pathways Master Plan. They've shared information on the condition of our roads and the challenges we face every day because we do not have pathways that serve as our sidewalk, and we have off-parking pavement challenges. Old Agoura needs your help now. We do not feel safe in these conditions. We received over 100 responses to our survey. 91% of resident responses are often or always scared of speeding cars. And 82% of resident respondents would support a multi-use trail network in Old Agoura. We know that the city of Agoura Hills wants us to be safe and off the streets. I refer to the May 17, 2007, the Acorn article where the city of Agoura Hills renovated the trails on Driver. Kelly Fisher was quoted as saying, "The city council not only took into account the safety of the horses and riders, but the high school students and pedestrians as well, since Old Agoura doesn't have sidewalks." We ask you to please help get parents with strollers, dog walkers, equestrians, runners, residents, and non-residents off the streets and into safety sooner than later by moving up the plans for public road improvements on Chesbro to this year and build pathways at the same time the road is repaired. Please include a pathway improvement to the east side of Fairview in this year's plans, like the one on Driver. It would be a continuation of the existing path as a start. Again, we are not acting alone. We ask now for a show of hands of residents and non-residents who support everyone's safe passage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is George Coleman, followed by Ben Suber.
You we've seen in person. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Councilman and Mr. Manager and Candace. I represent George Coleman. I represent the Old Agoura Organization of Homeowners in a request to implement the Trails and Pathways Master Plan, which is Resolution 08-1509, particularly in Old Agoura, since it was approved and ordered and can be done in segments. I refer you to page 11 of the plan itself, because that covers Old Agoura. There's specific provisions for our community there. It was remarkable that the survey that was done in 2006, and it's been 16 years since you guys approved it, and if it wasn't you, it was the people that preceded you, obviously. 85% of the residents supported the plan, and 75% of the total residents supported a multi-use trail, which consists of horses, pedestrians, and anything else that could be safely moving on that trail. And as I have constantly mentioned over the years, the uniqueness of Old Agoura, with nothing like our community in any of the other Council of Government cities. We are definitely something special, and you can throw our Oak Park in there if you want to, too. We in Old Agoura speak loudly of our beauty of open space and respect for the environment. With the Liberty Canyon and Annenberg Wildlife Crossing contemplated to be completed by early 2025, what a complement to that exciting endeavor would be the construction and implementation of the Trail Pathway Plan. I know the devil is in the details, as I've said, but the resolution passed 16 years ago. Old Agoura folk pay taxes, the money is in the reserve for sure, and Old Agoura should participate in that source. The letter submitted today, which is lengthy, which you all should have gotten, says it all, as do all the attendees here tonight. Now is not soon enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ben Suber.
All righty. Good evening, Mayor Buckley Weber and City Council members and staff. My name is Ben Suber. I am not a resident of Old Agoura. I live in the Avalon, not too far away, and I come as a representative of the running community who supports everyone's safe passage. As an avid runner right now, I am training for the Great Race Chesbro Half Marathon, and my long distance runs take me usually into Old Agoura, where lately I've been combining runs on the Chesbro Canyon Trail and into Old Agoura. And one would think, okay, the Chesbro Canyon Trail would be a very fearful area to be looking out for mountain bikers and other pedestrians. But within Old Agoura, I am more scared of running through there than I am on the Chesbro Canyon Trail. Most of the time I have to go zigzagging all along the roadways where there are all sorts of things to worry about, such as hills, as well as blind intersections. And usually whenever you have to dodge some of those cars, usually the option would be to try to go into somebody else's yard. But some of those passageways, I can definitely guarantee you that those passageways lead to no safe passage, where you could end up rolling down a hill if you have to take an evasive action against a speeding car, especially at the top of Fairview, where you're usually worried about hills and trying to go down the hills if you're going southbound or going up the steep hill. But then if a speeding car comes along and there's no way out, I can say as a runner that could create a very terrifying situation, and being far away from the finish line, that can be such a situation where I can guarantee you I'm not the only one who is worried for my life. So with that in mind, whatever you have to do to improve the streets, I'm on board to support, as well as to support everyone's safe passage. To once again say, the support for everyone's safe passage is not just in Old Agoura, it is also outside of Old Agoura, within the running community, the cycling community, whatever community is named, there is support. So whatever you can do, please do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Suber.
Thank you, Mayor Buckley Weber. We have no further speaker cards.
Oh, there's so many more of you. Okay, then we will move on. Let's see. So now we're going to move to the council's consent calendar. This section is reserved for persons wishing to speak on items on the consent calendar. I will now defer to the city clerk.
Thank
Oh,
you.
wait a second. Have we, give me a second. I might have turned my page too quickly. No. Okay. Are we having people before a motion? Okay. I'm just having a brain freeze. It's seeing all you happy, smiling people here. So, okay, so let's go on. Do we have any speakers for the consent calendar?
Thank you. We do not, and we did not receive any written public comments.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Clerk. So now we are going to go. Are there any questions from the City Council on the consent calendar? Does anybody want to pull something from the consent calendar? Okay, seeing none, I'll take a motion and a second to adopt tonight's consent calendar. And will the maker of the motion and second state your names?
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester moves to approve the consent calendar.
Councilmember Chris Anstead, seconds.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you take a roll call?
Councilmember Anstead?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber?
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber, you have approval, 3-0.
Thank you. So next, our next item is a discussion to waive full reading and introduce ordinance number 24-476, adding Chapter 8 to Article 7 of the Agoura Hills Municipal Code, and finding that this ordinance is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act. I will now defer to Public Works Director, City Engineer Jessica Forte for the staff presentation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, honorable council members. Ordinance 24-476 is an ordinance, maybe let some folks leave? No? Okay. Is an ordinance that is required by Tree City USA in order to achieve designation, by the Arbor Day Foundation to achieve our Tree City USA designation. This ordinance is essentially a template that comes from the Arbor Day Foundation's website. And what it would do is establish the Public Works Department as the department responsible for all of the public trees within the city, with the exception of decisions related to any oak tree, which is already established in the oak tree preservation guidelines. So this ordinance would create Chapter 8 of Article 7. I'm sorry that I'm so distracted. Please excuse me. I apologize. A community tree management ordinance. Essentially, the things that are listed in the ordinance we are just codifying things that we already do as a city, maintaining and trimming our public landscaping, and we maintain a budget that's essentially double what Tree City USA requires a city to do to achieve designation. So with that, staff is recommending that the City Council waive any additional reading of this ordinance and introduce Ordinance 24-476, Community Tree Management.
Before we move on to public comment, does any council member have any questions of staff? No questions, so now I will defer to the city clerk to see if we have any speakers.
Thank you. We did not receive any written public comments, nor do we have any speaker cards.
Thank you very much. Does any council member have any other questions yet? Okay, so we'll now move on to deliberations. Why don't we start with you, Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester?
Yes, I'll keep it very brief. I agree with everything that we do in our city to make it the wonderful green place it is. So I'm 100% in favor of this, and I can make all the findings. So thank you.
Thank you. How about you, Councilmember Anstead?
Pretty much in agreement. I think that it's reasonable. I think we're already spending $75,000 for street tree maintenance currently, and I think this would be that which is currently twice as much as this the requirements set forth by the Arbor Day Foundation. So I'm definitely can make the findings and ready to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I agree with my fellow council members, and I would only add, I'm very proud, actually, to get this designation, and it shows a real commitment on behalf of the council and the city to trees. We've always had a commitment to oak trees, so now we have a commitment to all trees, and so I think it's very exciting, and I thank you for bringing it to us. So with that, I will call for a motion and a second to waive full reading and introduce ordinance number 24-476.
This is Councilmember Chris Anstead. I'll make the motion to waive the reading and introduce ordinance number 24-476.
and Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester seconds.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you please take a roll call vote?
Councilmember Anstead,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester,
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber.
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber, you have approval, 3-0.
Okay, thank you. Our next item is a discussion to consider approving a letter of opposition to AT&T's proposal to the California Public Utilities Commission to relieve AT&T's obligation as the state designated carrier of last resort. I will now defer to Assistant City Manager Ramiro Adeva for the staff presentation.
Thank you so much, and good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. Last week on February 20th, the Las Virgenes Malibu COG Governing Board discussed an item related to AT&T's current application before the California Public Utilities Commission, the CPUC, requesting that AT&T be relieved of their obligation to be the carrier of last resort in certain areas in the state, including Agoura Hills and surrounding areas. Following the discussion, there was a consensus amongst the COG cities to oppose AT&T's application, citing concerns regarding weak wireless connectivity in many areas throughout the COG region and the need to have guaranteed phone service and communication during emergencies, which would not be the case if you had a system dependent on the internet or electricity to function, both of which are often not available during extreme emergencies such as wildfires and massive storms. Although the majority of the COG cities were in agreement on sending a letter of opposition to the CPUC, Mayor Pro Tem Penny Sylvester, who is the city's designated COG representative, informed the COG board that she could not take a stance on this matter until she brought the item before the entire city council first, which is the reason we're discussing this item tonight. For clarification, being the designated carrier of last resort requires AT&T to provide traditional landline service to their customers, which is separate from cellular and typically provided through their copper line network. AT&T asserts the copper line infrastructure is archaic and other alternatives exist to meet the communication demands for their customers. They claim that the obligation to continue providing traditional landline service through their copper-based network is cost prohibitive, and that if their application is approved by the CPUC, funds could be freed up to invest in technology that is current and better able to service the needs of their customers. In speaking to an AT&T representative on this matter, they did say that they have no intent of removing any of the copper line services for those customers where no other alternatives exist. Staff followed up with clarification, though, that where AT&T makes the unilateral determination that other alternatives do exist, such as the presence of other carriers, it would be their intent to transition those customers away from the copper landline system. So in short, if the CPUC approves AT&T's application to remove the carrier of last resort obligation, it would be AT&T's intent to eventually transition everyone away from the copper-based landline. Staff reached out to AT&T to offer them an opportunity to have representation for the meeting tonight to answer any specific questions related to their application, but they did not have anyone available to attend, so there is no one here today from AT&T to answer questions this council may have. Approving tonight's item would mean, one, that staff would forward the draft letter of opposition in the staff report, along with any requested changes to the CPUC, and two, would allow the city to support a letter of opposition that would collectively come from the COG at a later date. That concludes my report at this time. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Adeva. So before we move to public comment, does any council member have any questions of staff? No questions. So I'll now defer to the city clerk to see if we have anybody here to comment on this matter.
Thank you. We did not receive any written public comments, nor are there any speaker cards submitted.
Thank you. Before we move on to deliberations, let me ask again, anybody have any questions? Okay, no questions. So I'm going to start with you, Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester, because I know that you've been active on the COG and that this came before you. So go for it.
And at the COG meeting, we did have a representative from AT&T, and we did have a representative, Hope Chrisman, from the Public Utilities Commission. She's the Government Affairs Liaison. And I thought the most important thing I heard was what she said. And she said, because this judgment is being done in Indio, I believe, is that correct? Which is nowhere near our area. And she said, quote, the PUC only knows what they know, and they haven't heard from us. So it's very important that our voice is heard and that they know that we are very unhappy with this request to no longer be the carrier of last resort. Last Thursday, I experienced, I'm sure you all did, a massive AT&T outage in our area. And interestingly enough, I thought we still had a landline, because we do still have our home phone. And lo and behold, it didn't work. And I realized, because it's no longer a copper landline, it's now what they call a VoIP, which is a voice over network, is that right? Which is sort of still coming through the fiber network and Wi-Fi and things. And so we didn't have a landline. So I know there are a lot of people who live in this area. They're very concerned about when there's a fire hazard. You know, if we have a wildfire moving through, the wildfire could knock out all the cell towers in the area. And so people are frightened. And we have a lot of seniors in this area who may not be relying on their cell phones to get information. They rely to get their information from the sheriff's department, from the city, from the fire department on their home landlines. So I feel very strongly that this is not the time to back away. I think it's wonderful that they're moving forward with all the new technology, but technology, as we saw last Thursday, can break down. So I think it's so important for us to have a backup for our area.
Thank you. Councilmember Anstead.
Pretty much ditto on those comments. I think she covered it pretty well. And I think because I totally agree that there should be some service, especially in this area with the Santa Monica Mountains, the fact that the service is so sporadic with our cell phones. Even in our own communities, and I'm going to talk about my own personal, in Morrison Ranch, there's a specific, when you're driving up Laro, there's a dead zone in a specific area of the road that I hit every time I'm on a call, and it knocks the call off, or I can't hear the other person until I get through that dead zone. So I mean, it definitely, this area is very sporadic with cell service, so I would definitely want to have some alternative in cases of emergency. So I totally agree. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I ditto everything that both of you have said. I also met virtually with somebody from CPUC and AT&T, and when we looked at the map, Indio doesn't even have AT&T service, but that's where they're having the public hearings. So you can imagine how many people are going to show up for public hearings when they don't even have service there. So I think it is important that we voice our concerns. I agree, and I agree with you, Mayor Pro Tem, that you know, the day is going to come where the technology is going to change. I'm not blaming AT&T. I understand that home landlines, you know, the next generation doesn't even have them, or 2 generations down has never even heard of a home phone. So we're headed in that direction. But until we get there, we need to make sure that our residents, until everybody has good Wi-Fi and everybody knows how to use a cell phone properly, then I think we need to just hang in there a little bit longer. And I'm afraid if AT&T pulls out and the CPUC grants them their request to no longer be the last resort, that nobody's going to pick this up, because why would you? Why would another carrier do this? So it seems like I appreciate that AT&T wants out, but it's just too soon. So with that, let's move on to deliberations. I'll now call for a motion and a second to approve the staff recommendation, which is to provide direction to approve the attached letter of opposition from the city, and have the City of Agoura Hills will also support the COG submitting a letter of opposition from the collective COG group at a later date.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester so moves, and I'd just like to add that the COG, once we approve this, they are going to go ahead now and send the letter.
Thank you. And also, we got a letter today, and I believe you got it as well, that Supervisor Horvath, our, on the Board of Supervisors, has also sent a letter to the CPUC opposing
Yes,
this.
and also Cal City says about 200 cities have now sent letters of opposition.
Great, thank you. So you've made a motion. Do we have a second?
Councilmember Chris Anstead seconds.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can we do a roll call?
Councilmember Anstett,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sylvester,
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber.
Aye.
Mayor Buckley Weber, you have approval, 3-0.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments from staff? Mr. Hamburger, City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've been getting calls and inquiries on the water tower that's up on the hill, and there's something either attached to, affixed to, or painted on the water tower. And just to provide an update for the council and the community, I've been asked just to let everybody know we are working with the property owner to address that. It's something that's occurred several times over the years, so we're working on a long-term solution with them. But because it is an enforcement action, there isn't anything further we can really discuss other than we're working with the property owner.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Hamburger. I know that we've been hearing from the public on that, especially the artists in our community, so thank you. Let's see, are there any comments from City Council?
I would just like to make one comment. I would like to thank staff for posting in the newsletters that go out on Friday and Monday to remind our seniors that Waste Management does offer a 15% discount. You just have to contact them to receive it. So thank you so much for doing that.
Thank you. And if I could ask Ms. Brink, if you hear that our seniors are having problems with that, will you report back to us? Thank you. Councilmember Anstead, any comments?
No comments.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I do just want to make one quick comment.
Yes.
I just wanted to let everyone know that our vote center opens this Saturday here at City Hall in the community room. And the hours will be 10 to 7 until Election Day, when on Tuesday they'll be 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. There's also a permanent ballot box out front for people to drop off their their vote-by-mail ballots. And Agoura High School, Room G, and Courtyard Hotel will also be 4-day vote centers. And currently, if you'd like to vote before Saturday, you can go to Westlake Village City Hall.
Thank you very much for that. So please, everybody, there's almost no excuse not to go vote.
Could I just second that? I dropped off into the box outside today, so thank you.
I already got a text message saying that my ballot's been received and has been counted, so that's very exciting. We're lucky to live in a county that takes voting so seriously, so that's great. The only other comment I would like to make, and I'm not going to expand on it, but as everybody in this room knows, we lost the former chair and one of our planning commissioner members, John Ascension, who was just an amazing volunteer for our city. We're not ready to actually talk about this yet, and we've decided we're going to wait until the full council is here. So we will be honoring John, and I'll leave it at that for now. But he did pass away on Monday night, and it's just heartbreaking. So thank you. With that, the first City Council goal-setting workshop is scheduled for 4 p.m. On Wednesday, March 13th, 2024, and the regular City Council meeting, including the annual volunteer recognition presentation, is scheduled for 6 p.m. on Wednesday, March 13th, 2024, in the Council Chambers of the Civic Center located at 30001 Ladyface Court, Agoura Hills, California. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.